Hi everyone, so this video will talk about the rules of procedure involved in MUN debates and conferences. Do note that this will be focused on MUN at home debates in particular. So what are rules of procedure? These are basically rules that you have to follow in MUN debates and conferences. This is to maintain professionalism, diplomacy, and formality. Do remember that the goal of MUN is to debate and eventually pass resolutions. But in our case, it will just be one resolution. So now I'll talk about the general agenda of the debate. We'll start off with opening speeches. And once everyone has made their opening speeches, we'll be moving on to the resolution. This will be done in a clause-by-clause format, whereby each clause's main submitter will have to make their main submitter speech. This speech can include highlighting the importance of the clause, highlighting any important factors that are involved in the clause. And most of all, you have to express why the committee should follow your solution that's provided in the clause. And after that, the chair will ask the main submitter, does the main submitter wishes to entertain any POIs? So the main submitter can say any and all, meaning that they're willing to answer any questions. You can say no, means you don't want to. And you can also just pick any general number. And then you'll have to respond to the POIs that are given by the other delegates who will give you some questions. After each clause has been entertained in this process and the whole resolution is done, we'll move into the main debate where the whole resolution will be debated as a whole. Now we'll be moving on to more specific rules of debate, starting with roll call. This is where the chair takes attendance in alphabetical order. Delegates can respond with present or present in voting. Present means that you're just in the committee, whereas present in voting means that you are in the committee and you will be part of any voting procedures. You'll be either voting for or against something in the debate. You cannot refuse to vote, meaning you cannot abstain. After this, opening speeches are done. The chair will call on delegates alphabetically to give the opening speeches. But in MUN at home, we don't want to force delegates into speaking. We want more initiative from delegates. So we'll allow any delegates to volunteer to make their opening speeches. These speeches should not exceed 1 minute. If you exceed by too much, you will be stopped by the chair. Opening speeches are your first impression that you'll make on the committee. So make it good and also include some crucial aspects such as your country's stance and to establish your credibility as a delegate. After that, we'll be moving on to the clauses. This is where the main submitter of the clause makes their speech, responds to their POI, and this process will be repeated until the end of the resolution. So I'll be moving on to the main debate. There are two forms of debate, open debate and closed debate. Open debate allows delegates to take the floor to discuss anything in general related to the resolution. It can be any comments, thoughts, doubts. It can be in favor of, meaning you're talking about the positives of the resolution and persuading delegates to support this resolution, or it can be against. This is where you may be pointing out the flaws of this resolution and urging the House to vote against this resolution. This is different from closed debate, where the debate time is divided into times in favor or against something. This is really for amendments. So when there's an amendment going on, the chair may determine a closed debate, 2 for and 2 against this amendment. Throughout this process, amendments will be entertained, speeches will be entertained. These steps are repeated until the time for debate has elapsed. After that, voting will be done on the resolution as a whole, whether to pass it or to not pass it. Moving on to points and motions. These are used for interactions during the debate. Points are for pointing things out, and motions are to move the debate. Motions are made by raising one's placard and calling motion 2. In MUN at home, you'll be raising your hand using the Zoom function. Motions can be objected by raising your placard and saying objection if you disagree with the motion being raised, or you can agree with the motion being raised by saying second. Moving on to the specific points and motions that exist. Point of personal privilege. This is used to entertain the comfort of the delegate. You may only interrupt a speaker if it's due to audibility. So you may raise a point such as, point of personal privilege, this delegate cannot hear the delegate that is speaking right now. Point of order is used to indicate errors that are made by the chair regarding rules of procedure. Point of information to the chair, or POI to the chair. This is used to ask the chair any questions that you may have. It can be on the topic, the resolution, or anything else that you want to know. POI to the speaker. After speakers are done speaking, other delegates may raise points regarding the delegate's speech. This is the part where the chair will ask the speaker if they wish to entertain any POIs. If they say no, of course you cannot ask any questions, but if they say any and all or a certain number, feel free to raise your placard or raise your hand in Zoom. Let's say you raise a POI and the speaker already answered your question, but you feel that you have a follow-up question, then you may request to follow up. This will be accepted or denied depending on the chair. But do note that there's no direct dialogue between the delegates. So let's say there's some audibility issue. The delegate may ask the chair, can the delegate repeat his or her answer or repeat his or her question? Do note that points of information must be in the form of a question. This is really where lots of delegates get it wrong. They think it's a time where you make a speech or something like that. So do note that POI equal question. So let's say the POI time for the speaker has elapsed, but you feel that you still have some questions to ask. You may raise the motion to extend POI. This will also be accepted or denied depending on the chair. Motion to move the previous question. This is the request to move into a voting procedure or an amendment or resolution. So let's say you're doing an amendment. The chair asks for 2 for and 2 against this particular amendment, and you find that there's nothing to speak against about. Motion to move the previous question. This may be objected by other delegates or seconded. If it is objected, this motion will not pass. But if this is seconded by a lot of delegates, this will pass. Motion to extend debate time. This is to call upon extended time for discussion on a resolution or amendment. So let's say the chair asks for 2 for and 2 against this amendment, but you find that you have to add more against this amendment. So you may raise motion to extend debate time. So what are amendments? Amendments are basically modifying the resolution and the clauses that are inside it. So these are some actions that you may take. You may strike out, add, insert, change. Strike out means that you want to cancel out a whole clause or a subclause. Add is to add new clauses or subclauses. Insert is to insert a new continuous phrase into an existing clause or subclause. Change is to change a segment of a clause or subclause with a different wording. Do know that the rewarded clause cannot differ too much from the original meaning. So now I want to show you some examples of amendments that were done during a past debate at MUN and Home. So for instance, this is how you would structure your amendment. Submitted by the delegation that you're presenting, amendment type. So these are the amendment types: striking out, add, insert, change. Do note that these keywords are important. So let's say you wish to add a subclause. So you're adding a subclause to this already existing clause 4. Basically, you'll write whatever you want to add. So this one is an example of a striking amendment. So this delegate wishes to strike out clause 4, subclause B. So that means that he or she did not want this. I hope this gives you a better idea of what amendments look like. So more about amendments. Amendment to the first degree, meaning this is the first direct change that you want to make. Let's say you write add clause 4, subclause C. So let's say this other delegate wishes to add more to your amendment. This will be considered an amendment to the second degree, meaning that this is an amendment of an amendment. Scenario 1, we will not resume debate on the original amendment if the amendment to the second degree affects the original amendment entirely. This is completely off. Usually we take scenario 2. We'll resume debate on the original amendment after the amendment to the second degree passes. So basically, what would this look like? This means that, let's say there's an amendment to the first degree. So you'll put the first degree amendment on hold, but you'll debate the amendment to the second degree first. So if it passes, then it will be part of the first amendment. If it doesn't, then it will just be scrapped out and you'll continue debating on the amendment of the first degree. I hope that made sense. Voting procedure. Delegates may vote for, against, or to abstain, meaning that you refuse to vote. Delegates will vote by raising their placards. In our case, it will be using the raising hand function in Zoom. If the voting results are very close, the House may be divided. This means that the delegations are individually called on to state their vote, and this is done by roll calling. So how will this look like? This means that the chair will go through the whole attendance list alphabetically, and he or she will call upon individual delegations to ask them to state their stance, whether they are for, against, or abstain. This will usually not take place in very big MUN conferences because there's just way too many people and it's like very time consuming. But this is something that does exist. Are there any questions or concerns? Please ask your mentors or just post it in Modo.